Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone. This is an open meeting of the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board on November 24th, 2015. We welcome you who've joined us today in person or are listening to the webcast of this meeting. Today the Board will consider recommendations to adopt a strategic plan for 2015-19 and to approve the PCAOB's 2016 budget in accordance with Section 109B of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. Before we proceed with the agenda, I will note for the record that all board members are present or participating by phone. The only order of business before the board today are staff recommendations that the board adopt a strategic plan for fiscal years 2015-2019 and approve the proposed budget for fiscal year 2016. Under Section 109B of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, the board is required to establish a budget for each fiscal year no later than 1 month prior to the beginning of the fiscal year and to submit it to the Securities and Exchange Commission for approval. As the board's fiscal year follows the calendar year, we are here today to meet this requirement. To present the staff's recommendation, I will turn to our Chief Administrative Officer, Suzanne Cancer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Jim Hearn and I are pleased to present for your consideration and approval the 2015 to 2019 strategic plan and the 2016 budget of $257.7 million. The strategic plan before you is the result of an organization-wide effort that began earlier this year and reflects your foresight, views, and guidance as to the future direction of the PCAOB. The plan also reflects thoughtful contributions from the PCAOB's divisions and offices and includes performance measures in conformance with the SEC's budget rule. This document serves as the foundation for the 2016 budget. The 2016 budget is the result of a robust process that began in March with the submission to the SEC of the PCAOB's Budget Outlook Letter, followed by the SEC's Letter of Budget Guidance and Economic Assumptions in April. Throughout the spring, the Budget Office and I met with you and your staff, as well as divisions and offices, to formulate a draft budget by midsummer. In September, the budget staff and staff from the PCAOB's divisions and offices met with the SEC representatives to provide a detailed overview of the budget and to answer specific questions posed by the SEC. The result of those meetings and the discussions that we and you have had with the SEC is the 2016 budget and is before you this afternoon. The budget process is very demanding, and I want to extend a special thanks to Jeannie Bainey, Jim Hearn, Yas Masagian, and Bobby Rose for their extraordinary efforts. I also want to thank the divisions and offices for their generous and valuable assistance. And of course, each of you and your staff for your support and direction through the strategic planning and budget process. Jim will now highlight the strategic plan and the 2016 budget. I concur with the forthcoming recommendation that the board approve both documents. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as indicated, I'm here to provide a brief overview of the board's strategic plan for 2015 to 2019 and the 2016 budget. Since the strategic plan serves as the foundation for the formulation of the budget, I'll start with that and then move on to the budget. The plan before you today refines and supersedes the strategic plan the board approved this time last year. Consistent with last year's strategic plan, this plan continues to have overarching goals around the PCAOB's oversight, our impact, and our people. In updating the plan, the board and divisions and offices worked together to develop several new strategies and revise existing strategies. In addition, a draft of the plan was provided to SEC staff in midsummer, and with the board's guidance, the SEC's comments were incorporated as appropriate. Also, consistent with prior plans and with the SEC's budget rule, the 2015 to 2019 strategic plan includes numerous quantitative performance measures and qualitative indicators that are intended to assist the PCAOB in monitoring its progress toward achieving its mission. I now turn to the 2016 budget, which is organized so that the activities and resource needs of each division and office are directly mapped to the goals, objectives, and strategies in the strategic plan. As Suzanne stated, the proposed budget for 2016 is $257.7 million. This budget represents a 2.7% increase from the PCAOB's 2015 budget of $250.9 million. So let me run down the largest components of the 2016 budget in terms of cost category, and each category's approximate portion of the total budget. Starting with personnel, which is salaries, benefits, taxes, training, and recruitment, the total is $197.8 million, which accounts for about 77% of total PCAOB expenses. This amount funds a total of 876 positions by the end of 2016, which is 36 more than the 840 staff projected to be in place at the end of December 2015. In addition to 16 positions funded in the 2015 budget that are currently open and not expected to be filled until 2016, the 2016 budget funds the following 20 new positions. There's 8 in the Division of Registration and Inspections, 6 in the Office of Information Technology, 4 in the Office of Research and Analysis, 1 in the Center for Economic Analysis, and 1 in the Office of Administration. Turning to non-personnel costs, the rent and facilities budget is $20.1 million, which accounts for 8% of the PCAOB's 2016 budget. Consulting and professional fees are $12.2 million and account for 5% of the budget. The budget also includes $11.7 million in travel-related costs, which account for another 5%. In 2016, the PCAOB expects that staff will take about 5,100 trips during the year, with inspections-related trips accounting for 84% of all PCAOB trips. Information technology and infrastructure, expenses and infrastructure, totaling $9 million, accounts for 3% of the budget. Sometimes another way to think about IT costs is the entire cost of the Office of Information Technology, including staff compensation and consulting, and that would be a total of $26.7 million. Finally, administrative expenses, things like subscription and library, business insurance, cost of events, total $6.8 million, and that accounts for the remainder of the budget. All of these activities are funded through the accounting support fee that's levied on issuers and broker-dealers. The accounting support fee associated with the 2016 budget is $253.3 million. This amount is less than the This amount is less than the amount we plan to spend in 2016 because we now estimate that actual spending in 2015 will be somewhat less than we had budgeted a year ago. The accounting support fee for issuers is $220.9 million, and for broker-dealers it is $32.4 million. The budget also assumes that the board will continue to have 5 months of operating resources for early 2017 in its working capital reserve fund by the end of 2016. Separately, I should note that the PCAOB continues to be subject to the sequester process that was put into motion by the Budget Control Act of 2011. The sequestration order for 2016, which was issued on February 2, 2015, requires the PCAOB to sequester $16 million next year. Since the PCAOB held aside $17 million during 2015 for the sequester for that year, the difference of $1 million now reduces the 2016 ASF by $1 million. We will, of course, continue to keep you apprised of any sequestration-related developments, if any occur next year. The development of the strategic plan and the budget involved many hands, and so I should quickly note my appreciation of all our colleagues throughout the PCAOB who participated in that effort. In particular, I'd like to thank Suzanne, Bill Wiggins, Jeannie Bainey, Yas Masagian, and Bobby Rose for their collaboration and support. We also received significant support from all the board councils, especially Samantha Ross and George Bodek, and from the corporate secretary, Phoebe Brown, as well as from division and office leaders and their key staff, who, as always, are highly responsive to the tight deadlines required of the budget process. In addition, we greatly appreciate the support provided by each of you. With that, Mr. Chairman, I formally recommend that the Board approve the 2015-2019 Strategic Plan and the 2016 budget that is before you. My colleagues and I are happy to answer any questions that you or the Board may have.
Well, thank you. And as Jim Hearn notes, the 2016 budget and the related strategic plan are the result of considerable effort and thought by board members and senior programmatic staff. I want to join Suzanne and Jim in expressing my appreciation, first for the efforts of our Chief Administrative Officer, Suzanne Cancer, our Deputy CAO, Bill Wiggins, our Deputy CFO, Jeannie Bone, Budget Officer Jim Hearn, as well as Bobby Rose and Yost Masagian. Equally, I would like to thank the SEC staff for their support and counsel throughout this year. In particular, Chief Accountant Jim Schnurr, Deputy Chief Accountant Brian Croto, who is with us here today, and Chief Financial Officer Ken Johnson. The 2016 Strategic Plan reflects continuation of important work and initiatives begun under previous plans. This updated plan and the 2016 budget together will allow us to redouble our efforts on a number of key strategies to achieve our mission. The 2016 budget will allow us to conduct 150 issuer inspections in the United States and 62 inspections abroad to meet mandatory annual and triennial cycles, and to examine portions of 835 audit engagements. It will also allow us to continue to gather information in our temporary broker-dealer audit inspection program by examining 75 firms that audit brokers and dealers, or a total of 150 broker-dealer audit engagements. 115 broker-dealer audit engagements. This information will be important to our development of a permanent inspection program, including our evaluation of appropriate exemptions. In the area of economics, our Center for Economic Analysis has promoted more fluent coordination among the PCAOB's programs in order to better leverage data and insights obtained through our various programs. This is particularly important to our consideration of potential new auditing standards. In addition, the Center has begun our first post-implementation review of a previously adopted auditing standard, as well as a project to help the Board consider ways to incorporate an element of random selection in our inspections. The 2016 budget also includes funds to complete our review of our standard-setting process to optimize performance. I continue to work closely with the Commission's Chief Accountant, Jim Schnurr, in this effort. I'm grateful for his support, and I know we are both committed to achieving a result that will benefit the PCAOB, the Commission, and the public interest. We've already begun to see the fruits of this work in the form of deeper analysis and more efficient internal work, both at the staff and the Board level. As a result, I believe we'll be in a position very soon to finalize our rule to provide greater transparency in the execution of the audit through identification of the engagement partner and other accounting firms that participate in the audit. We should also, in 2016, see a new proposal to expand the standard form auditor's report, as well as new proposals on audit procedures related to using the work of other auditors, using the work of specialists, and auditing accounting estimates, including fair value measurements. We will also continue our outreach to audit committees in 2016, including by looking for ways to help them be effective in overseeing the audit, for example, through wider use and continued evaluation of appropriate audit quality indicators. I'm immensely proud of the PCAOB staff for their creativity in developing new techniques to bring to bear in their work, as well as their commitment to identifying the most effective ways to protect investors. Excuse me. The 2016 budget, as noted, is only 2.7% higher than our 2015 budget and is lower than our 2014 budget. The 2016 budget is lower than our 2014 budget. Let me say a word about the mechanics of our budgets. Since inception, the PCAOB has underspent its budgets, having faced severe hiring challenges in several key employment markets. We built our 2015 budget on fairly conservative hiring estimates, and that's why both the 2015 budget and the 2016 budget are less than the 2014 budget. It reflects the conservatism of those hiring estimates. As a result, we now expect actual spending in 2015 to fall short of the 2015 budget by only 2.4%. This would be the PCAOB's smallest underspend ever. Given all the work and support that's gone into the budget, I'm comfortable that it is appropriate. It should be submitted to the SEC for its approval. And I will now turn to my fellow board members for any statements they may wish to make. We will, as is our practice, withhold questions until all board members have had a chance to make a statement, and then we'll have time for questions and open discussion. And I'll begin by calling on Board Member Harris. Stephen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I support the Board's 2015-2019 strategic plan and the accompanying budget, and I would ask that my full statement be made a part of the record. As you point out, this budget represents an approximately 2.7% increase from the budget approved in 2015, which is the smallest increase since I have been on the board, with the exception of last year, which saw a decrease. As in the past, the 2016 budget will enable the board to meet its priorities and efficiently allocate its resources. I also believe this budget will enable us to meet the goals spelled out in the 2015-2019 strategic plan and fulfill our mandate to protect the interests of investors and further the public interest in the preparation of informative, accurate, and independent audit reports. This also approaches the steady state budget I believe is an appropriate, reasonable goal while demonstrating careful stewardship of our resources. The strategic plan for 2015 through 2019 sets out in considerable detail a number of the board's significant past accomplishments and major goals. So I will indicate just a few of my own priorities. They include maintaining a focus on auditor independence. I believe is emphasized throughout the strategic plan that investor protection, improving audit quality, and ensuring audit independence must remain top priorities as the larger firms grow their consulting and advisory services. As in prior years, in 2014, revenues from consulting and advisory services for these firms increased at a higher rate than audit. Revenue from these consulting and advisory services now represents 41% of total revenues across the four major U.S. firms, exceeding audit's 35% share. For this reason, I support the initiative in the strategic plan to examine the evolution and structure of audit and non-audit services offered by the largest accounting firms and the implications of their multi-practice business model on independence and audit quality. As part of this endeavor, I believe the board should consider any potential policy options that could mitigate risks to ensure that investor protection, audit quality, and auditor independence are not compromised as audit firms expand or add additional lines of business. This includes, for example, monitoring firm business practices such as possible cross-marketing or tying arrangements, which could give rise to conflicts of interest that may impair auditor independence. I'm not convinced that the appropriate safeguards are currently in place to protect the independence and integrity of the insurance functions of these firms. I also believe the board should examine whether certain kinds of tax consulting services create conflicts of interest that may impair auditor independence. The strategic plan makes clear that we will continue to hold auditors accountable for violations of our auditing standards and independence rules during inspections and as part of our enforcement oversight. With respect to global audit firm quality, I have concerns over how a global network firms ensure consistent audit quality when performing multinational audits or group audits. Our inspections continue to highlight mixed results from various network affiliate firms, and the board's activities, as indicated in the strategic plan, will include an ongoing focus on the level of supervision and interaction among member firms in the performance of all group audits. I also continue to believe that timely remediation determination should be a priority for the PCAOB. As a result, I strongly support the initiatives included in the strategic plan to promote timely remediation and early engagement of firms in the remediation process in order to improve audit quality. With respect to standard setting, in 2015, the board undertook a review of the performance and management of its standard setting process, and the board is currently considering the development and implementation of a process improvement plan that is designed to advance its standard setting process in the coming year. I believe that the Board should continue to focus on the need and the problem any new proposed standard is seeking to solve, as well as the feasibility of achieving a timely solution to any proposed standard. I also support the Board's Center of Economic Analysis early review of the costs and benefits of any proposed standard, as well as prospective post-implementation review of standards the Board has adopted. With respect to advancing our standard-setting agenda to further protect investors, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, I expect the Board to adopt the final rule related to disclosure of the audit partner and other accounting firms participating in the audit in the very near future. In addition, investors have been asking for an expanded auditor's report for a number of years now, and I would note that the strategic plan makes this a Board priority. I support the other standard-setting projects mentioned in the plan, including those relating to clarifying auditors' responsibilities related to going concern, as well as our initiatives to improve the Board's quality control standards. In this regard, I continue to believe the Board should focus on the failure to supervise provision of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. I would also note that the Board took a significant step towards promoting competition based on audit quality among the firms by issuing its concept release on audit quality indicators in June 2015. I believe AQIs will be of considerable value not only to the PCAOB, but to audit committees, auditors, investors, and companies alike. This effort is of importance to regulators around the world, with several countries already instituting disclosure of AQIs by firms. The PCAOB gathers considerable amounts of data to achieve its various policy objectives. For this reason, I believe it is essential that the data needs of each of our offices and divisions are clearly understood and met. And in this regard, I think the Board can do a better job. As a result, I support the initiative contained in the strategic plan to establish a process to review and analyze PCAOB data needs so that all the offices and divisions at the Board receive the information they need to best do their jobs. In addition, I recommend that a cross-divisional committee should be formed to identify, track, and resolve the data collection needs of each of the various PCAOB offices and divisions. In conclusion, in considering and finalizing the Board's 2016 budget, which now must be approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission, I believe the Board has carefully assessed and continues to assess the growth of the PCAOB with an eye towards reaching a steady state level in its budget. The Board understands the need to budget responsibly, to provide justification of its spending, and to carefully oversee its divisions and offices. I believe this budget represents that effort. Before closing, Mr. Chairman, I join you in acknowledging and thanking all of the staff that you've mentioned. This budget and strategic planning exercise has involved the yeoman's effort on behalf of all involved, and I want to express my appreciation to all who have been involved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Steve. Board Member Ferguson.
Thank you. First of all, I want to start off by thanking the budget team for this. I mean, all of you have worked tirelessly on very tight time deadlines and at times in challenging circumstances. But you always do it with good cheer, good humor, readiness to answer questions at any given time, and that allows us to meet these budget deadlines. And for that, I'm very, very grateful, and I think we all owe you a great debt. We do understand how hard you've worked and that this is not an easy job. I also want to express my appreciation for the constructive and thoughtful contributions again this year that the Securities and Exchange Commission staff has made to the formulation of this budget. Their oversight and meetings that they have with us always make this budget better. And I support this strategic plan and budget for 2016. I'm pleased that the budget holds the level of resources budgeted relatively steady as compared to our 2015 budget. I also believe that this level of resources will enable us to make significant progress on a number of our strategic initiatives and near-term priorities. And I believe it will better enable us to match expenditures with our activities than we've done in the past. And while I'm quite happy with the final product, I note that the process of arriving here has been challenging. And I'm hopeful that in future years, with improvements to the budget timetable and the timeliness of consultation, some of the work that you all in the budget office have to do, that the divisions do, and that the Board contributes to this effort can be front-loaded and streamlined. I've also proposed that we change the way we present the narratives that discuss and justify our budget numbers to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Emphasizing more clearly changes from prior year's budgets and emphasizing our major new strategic initiatives will facilitate review and help us highlight the resources that are critical to support our needs. Currently, we devote significant narrative content to long-standing activities, many required by our enabling statutes, that will continue to be sustained at existing levels. This doesn't help a reviewer of our budget focus on the aspects of the budget that justify the new things we want to do in the coming budget year. Additionally, I hope we can move to a model where the board discusses our strategic plan earlier in the year, and the strategic plan, which should be the primary driver of the budget, is finalized prior to the creation of the budget. I'd note that our near-term priorities, the current near-term priorities we have, were developed in 2012 as part of our strategic planning process at that time. We've made good progress on a number of these priorities, and perhaps a look at the strategic plan in future years will include development of a new set of near-term priorities early in the year, and we can then incorporate those into the future budget. But with these process changes, I generally am very satisfied with this budget. I think it will enable us to achieve the kinds of things we want to achieve over the next year and to push the PCAOB to the next stage. And again, I thank you very much for all the work you've done for us.
Thank you, Lou. We have our first participation, as I recall, in an open meeting by telephone. Board Member Hanson from Phoenix.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Joining you from Phoenix today, and many of the things I have in my statement have already been mentioned by others, so I'm not going to go through every single thing. I'm just going to highlight a couple points. Last year at this time, I explained that I think it's the board's goal to base the budget on what we can realistically and reasonably accomplish, not just merely on our aspirations. Thus, it was my hope that our actual spending in 2015 would match the 2015 budget as closely as possible. As the chairman has already mentioned, our current estimates indicate we will end the year with a slight underspend of less than 3%, which is significantly less than our annual underspend of 6 to 10% in past years. So I consider that a significant improvement, given the amount of the annual support fee charged to issuers, brokers, and dealers is derived directly from our budget projections. Hopefully, this is a good start, and we'll do even better in 2016. I won't go through my statement about the individual parts of the budget. Jim Hearn did a great job of summarizing that, but I'll just say that overall I'm satisfied that the 2016 budget appropriately funds the anticipated and necessary operational expenses of PCAOB and does not set unreasonable goals for headcount or consulting. Our staff has diligently provided estimates that are well supported and realistically reflect the financial resources our office and divisions will need to satisfy their mandates. Our strategic plan continues to focus on similar goals and objectives as in years past, with renewed emphasis on improvements in standard setting, data aggregation and analysis, outreach, and transparency. We also plan to continue our work in the development of appropriate audit quality indicators, enhance our outgoing outreach efforts to audit committees and others, and further develop the economic analysis function in support of standard setting. In addition to the goals, objectives, and strategies set forth in the strategic plan, I believe the board should commit to an evaluation of how to most effectively and efficiently draw upon the deep expertise of our standing advisory group. This would effectively complement our ongoing work to improve the standard setting process and may provide an opportunity to address concerns that SAG members do not have sufficient time during the meetings to provide substantial input. SAG members dedicate significant effort to prepare for and attend our meetings, and we owe it to them to maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of this group. As always, we need to continue to deploy our resources wisely with a strong focus in our mission of improving audit quality. We focused in the past year carefully defining the mission and activities of the Center for Economic Analysis to ensure a close link to our overall mission. In the coming year, we will continue our close oversight over the Center, including by asking the staff to demonstrate whether and how the Center's activities, including research by academic fellows, conference attendees, and other research-related efforts will inform the board in connection with its regulatory activities. Finally, the 2016 budget funds additional staff and consulting projects in our Office of Administration, which continues the much-needed work to update processes and systems to keep up with the PCAOB's growth, changes in applicable laws and regulations, and technology. Board Member Ferguson just mentioned some concerns about our process relative to getting to this point. So while I agree with his points, and I'll just emphasize that while I support the 2016 budget and believe that strategic plan appropriately guides our activities for the next fiscal year, I believe there is significant room for improvement in the process that brought us to this point. I am troubled by the lack of timely, long-range strategic planning and the abbreviated opportunity afforded board members to review the budget and the hundreds of pages of underlying documentation. I discussed with the staff of our Office of Administration my ideas to be considered in a comprehensive review of the process that would better prioritize the board's discussion of policy and strategic matters before the development of the budget itself. This would allow the board to develop a strategic direction, establish priorities, and communicate its vision for the future to the staff before the offices and divisions prepare their budget requests. I look forward to the staff's suggestions for improvement and a better process in 2016. And so I'm going to wrap up now by just thanking all those in the room that had such a heavy effort to get us to this point. Their names have all been mentioned already, so I'll just call them out by first name. Jim and Bobby, it seems like we see each other way too often this time of year, at least from your perspective, way too often in my office, as well as Suzanne, Jeannie, Bill, and Yas. I greatly appreciate their efforts as well as the efforts of the SEC staff. So I'll close by wishing everyone a safe and happy holiday weekend.
Thank you, Jay. Board Member Franzel.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I also want to thank the staff for their hard work. I have to say the couple of times that I went downstairs to check on whether everyone was still standing, I was impressed, very impressed by the teamwork, the camaraderie, and the calmness that you all had in the face of working long evenings and over the weekends. So I commend you. I support this budget, but I support holding our budget to a low rate of growth. I believe that's appropriate at this point in our life cycle, and given the improvements that we need to make to our programs and operations going forward. As I was thinking about this budget and our needs, I really put things into three different buckets in terms of the life cycle of PCAOB. And in thinking through in that manner, I do believe that this is an appropriate budget for accomplishing our mission, as well as the modernizing and improving that we need to do. So the three buckets that I really put this into was first, unfinished business from our startup phase that we need to pay attention to and work on, identifying and responding to new and emerging risks and challenges, and then finally an emphasis on modernizing our operations and administration. So in the unfinished business from our startup phase category, I think, the staff and board members since 2003 have been working very hard to get the programs up and running effectively, and they've done a wonderful job at that, but a lot of work still remains. We still have a lot of work left on reviewing our interim standards, for instance. And in 2012, the board set a near-term goal of enhancing the framework of PCAOB's standard-setting process in order to improve the effectiveness of the process. Well, in 2015, we just engaged a consultant to help us with that, and that's going to continue into 2016. We also continue to develop plans for a permanent broker-dealer program, and there are a number of recommendations directed toward the PCAOB that came from the Department of Treasury's Advisory Committee on the Auditing Profession that we are either still working on or we need to get to work on. And then finally, we have a lot of work we need to do to establish the role and importance of the audit in today's capital markets, and our Center for Economic Analysis has begun work there. So a lot of things still in that unfinished business category. New and emerging risks and opportunities come at us every day, and we hear about these from our Standing Advisory Group and our Investor Advisory Group. And we've also heard from stakeholders that they want more information from the PCAOB, and they want it in a more timely fashion. So we have a lot of work to do there as well. Finally, in modernizing our operations and administration, I think we're really at a critical juncture here. We heard today about some of the improvements that board members are calling for in the strategic planning process and the budgeting process, which are critical because it's the strategic plan that helps us figure out where we are and where we need to go, and then what kind of resources do we need to fund that. So I continue to believe that we need to make improvements in those areas, and also really in order to respond effectively to the current risks and the policy decisions that the board needs to make to protect investors and to accomplish our mission. We could also use some good performance measures, and I know the center is working to help us with those, but to help evaluate our progress against a thoughtful strategic plan. And I know that, Suzanne, you are studying potential recommendations to enhance the full range of administrative operations, everything from human capital through finance, and I very much support those efforts and the additional resources that we have in the budget for those efforts, because that's really core and key to the rest of our operations, to have smoothly running and modernized administrative operations. So that was the thought process that I went through, in addition to reviewing the detail in the hundreds of pages in this budget and strategic planning process. And I'll have my full statement posted later today. But I support this budget, and I thank you for all of your hard work on this.
Thank you, Jeanette. Custom is to have each board member have the opportunity to ask a question. We will rotate through the ranks. Board Member Harris, I'm not sure how many questions we have after this, but Board Member Harris?
I think the staff has done a terrific job in terms of keeping in contact with all of us and with our concerns, and you've addressed mine over the period of time, so I have no questions.
Board Member Ferguson?
I have no questions.
Board Member Hanson?
No questions on this end.
Board Member Franzel?
The staff has already answered my many questions that I had during the process, so I have no further questions.
Another first for an open meeting on the budget. Thank you all. Before we adjourn, though, I would ask all board members, for the record, all in favor of the budget and the strategic plan, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed?
Yes from Phoenix.
Yes from Phoenix. This is good. The vote is unanimous. That concludes the agenda. There is no further business, and the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, Jay.